see. Just waiting for that ping.
There it is.
Yeah, there we go. Alright, so as we lose Thomas D immediately, so we're already down a guy, but so that's off to a flyer of a start. So hopefully that isn't an issue.
Best start.
Let's see, survey says session will start in 0, so hopefully we're good. Let's see.
Which means session starts in 0.
That's the session will start in, oh no, never mind, it just started again. And it just went to, okay.
Oh, never mind.
So I think, never mind, I think we're good. Of course, welcome back to another slightly scuffed opening to round 2 here in Suzuka, but thankfully we're up and running for the start of qualifying this time instead of a minute or two in, so making progress every week. But of course, welcome to the wonderful Suzuka circuit here in Japan for round number 2 here in LSR Group number 1. As we see the first couple of cars pulling out of the pit lane, leading the way by last week's winner, or last week's not winner because he choked of Darul. But of course, round 2 here. Got a slightly bigger grid this time around, and potentially the addition of 2 more if they can make it. But once again, I'm Vacant Haddock, and glad to have you joining me. And once again, right alongside me is James. How are you doing today?
I am doing good. I'm happy I was able to even make it for this race. So it's good to be back for another week for this round at Japan, and I'm hearing quite a lot that some people are a little bit struggling here, I think I've been hearing. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one.
Of course, Suzuka, a very technical, a very challenging circuit, very narrow, so probably not going to see loads of overtakes here today outside of the opening couple laps. We do get Thomas D back in, thankfully, so he is able to rejoin. But of course, plenty of challenging technical corners. Of course, you got the S's in Sector 1. You got the, you got both Degners early on in Sector 2. You, of course, have Spoon Curve, which really you can only take one line through. You got 190R, which, of course, not as much of a challenge in today's games. But, of course, if we have changeable conditions, that kind of level of challenge is only going to be turned up even further. Of course, here in qualifying, it's going to be an additional challenge. It's one session of qualifying as of right now. So with that tight track, it's going to prove just as much, and if not more of a challenge, as cars on hot laps are going to have to make sure that they navigate those cars on slower laps to get as much time as they can. I think John Wick, who kind of goes by Waits in our Discord, I believe is the first on a lap in that Aston Martin. Seemingly fairly clean through the first part of the lap, and keeping it under control through Degner 1 and 2, through the underpass and into the hairpin.
Yeah, it's looking a very nice and clean lap so far for John Wick. And then you got Axolotic behind him, so the first 2 people to do their laps, as they both are the first ones to reach the traffic, which are getting out of the way, which is very nice for them. But here comes John Wick now.
In a little bit of a tow behind the Alpha Tauri. I want to say that was Ricky, who this is, I believe, his first race here in LSR, even for Group 1. So got a couple of new faces. His yellow flag, I believe that's just for a couple of cars going slowly. But Waits is going to set the benchmark here. Of course, coming out of the final corner to the line, out of that chicane, and it's going to be a 128.2 from Aston Martin. So we'll have to see how everybody else goes after that time. His Aston Martin teammate Abdurul behind him comes and immediately smashes that time. 126.8 from his Aston Martin teammate. That's a very quick time from him to take provisional position as those first couple of times come in. Of course, Derul only finishing 11th and out of the points last week after going toe-to-toe with Fight Me Now bot, who of course couldn't make this weekend. But I think he's gonna certainly be a front runner for today's win.
That lap does seem very, very competitive. It's almost 1.5 seconds ahead of his teammate and 1.2 ahead of Dodligo. So this is going to be a very interesting lap time. Jonah goes third with 28.0. 1.2 seconds off the lead as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a good couple of times in the mid to low 27s, particularly as we see this circuit kind of continue to improve. Of course, definitely going to be some challenges with finding the right level of track limits as Gaming James goes fourth fastest, so just ahead of Waits, but still 1.2 seconds back. Ricky, meanwhile, for Alpha Tauri, coming out of that chicane.
I think he went a bit too deep into the corner. I would presume with that lap time.
Potentially a mistake down at the Degners as well. Really easy to run a little bit wide there, and if you're not running enough ride height, then pretty easy to bottom out and lose a whole chunk of time. Let's see if anybody else is on a lap.
Speedy is on a lap time at the moment. And give one.
Red Bull. I think we'll just go with Jamie there, because I think we have a couple of James and Johns, but no Jamie yet, so I think Jamie is probably the easiest way to go there.
We need some other names, please.
Yeah, of course, here comes the Alpine into 190R. Of course, into this chicane, this ending chicane to the lap can be surprisingly challenging sometimes, especially if you don't have your tires right in the correct operating window. Don't know if you're riding on board there, but a little bit of a twitch. And Jamie is going to go third. Jojo, meanwhile, currently sits second, so actually getting pretty close to Derul's time. 127.3 and a 127.8 from the two Alpines has them in second and third right now. So good times there early, as I will try to get Viperize back in.
And Speedy goes 10th for 29.3. I do wonder if he's still got a little bit more pace in that Red Bull, but so far some very good and competitive lap times at the front. Only 5 attempts splitting the top two, so maybe there's time to gain, but we will have to wait and see for the next 10 or 11 minutes.
Yeah, of course, plenty of time left to go in the session. Of course, got a couple of drivers stalling out laps. Pengy just taking a recon lap on a set of mediums. So we'll have to see what happens there. But got a couple of new guys. JM is one of the drivers that's at least new to the season, but is returning to LSR. So he's going to be in that Williams today. So good to see Jay back in LSR. So we'll have to see where he places this Williams on his first lap. Of course, just approaching 10 minutes left to go out of the final corner into the line. Good enough for third fastest, so he'll split both Alpines. So a good return showing for JM out of the gate, as that's, I believe, a 127.5, 127.6 for the Williams. So good showing
127.6
as of right now.
He went 3 attempts quicker than one Alpine, as Tommy's gone fourth now.
He's gone fourth, so 2 cars finding that gap between the Alpines early on in this qualifying session. Of course, a lot of time left to go as we see a couple cars coming out and getting ready to start their second laps. Tommy XXC took a little bit of a bonus lap in there to get those tires right into the window he wanted. So a good showing from the McLaren early on. Of course, Tommy XXC finished on the podium last weekend. Of course, he got a 3-second time penalty removed from avoiding a collision. If any of you remember, he almost went into the back of his teammate. I believe it's turn 12 at Austin. And he got a 3-second time penalty for that. Stewards deemed that it was, he was able to get 1 warning removed, brought him down to 5. So he currently does sit third behind Nander and Fight Me Now bot. Nander, of course, currently sitting in 17th and on his getting set up for his first lap. at least his first lap, that would count.
I'm interested in seeing what Pingu is doing. I mean, he's using up a medium set, so that set's not going to be used for the race, I presume, because I think he's done quite a few laps on those mediums by now, or he's just been going in and out, in and out. But I have seen him spin once in the SS, so it's going to be confusing.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting a little bit of a race sim in at least early on, maybe looking to save. Instead of, because I believe the way the game works is you turn in the 3 most worn sets of tires from qualifying. So maybe he's potentially looking to save some of those sets of soft tires for the race. Could be looking at maybe an alternate strategy. Maybe we see something a little bit different. As he does put in a lap time to go 15th quickest, and still has plenty of fuel in the car, as we do have B-Thumb joining late in the quali session, so that'll be a horn to anybody who's familiar to LSRs. B-Thumb, of course, a multi-time champion here in Group 1, so definitely keep an eye on him to take the fight to Derul during this race, as he does come in. Of course, he's driving full-time for Mercedes this year, but it is great to see him back in the cockpit.
Yeah, it's nice to see that he has been able to join.
Sorry, I just switched over to Jojo, who almost just went out of the session with a big incident in the S's. Kind of went pretty hard into the wall and lost his front wing, I believe, on a push lap. So I think Josh hit it at quite the right angle to be able to stay in the race. Of course, definitely pushing very, very hard. But yeah, sorry to cut you off, James.
No, you're good. I thought Viprize had also something there, because he was going very slowly right next to him. Not 100% sure, but yeah.
Yeah, not sure if he was on in-lap or something, but yeah, we should see the Ferrari either come around to dive into the pit lane. Of course, just about 6 minutes left to go. Of course, up to 19 drivers now, so it should be very, very interesting. Of course, still potentially waiting on getting one more. But we'll have to wait and see on that front. But even still, 19 drivers. Good to see a full grid. Thomas D's getting ready to set a lap. I believe Derul is on a new lap. Not quite sure if he's up at all right now. Of course, I gotta turn his lap data on. Of course, coming down this back stretch now in the run-up in the 130R. Of course, the ending of Sector 2, so we'll be able to see just how much he's up, if at all. He's down to 10th, so the current provisional pole sitter. Coming into the final couple of corners, can he pick up any time in this final chicane? Of course, really the only 2 corners of Sector 3 that are significant. I know Derul is going to be still a little slower, but still comfortably in pole position for the Aston Martin.
Yeah, it's quite a massive lead as well. Dodoligo not improving on his lap time. I don't know if he is improving.
No, I'd assume that he's on an in-lap at this point. It does look like he's out of fuel, jumping from the onboard. So I believe he's coming around. Jamie, meanwhile, a 10th down through the first on his time through the first sector. So the Alpine potentially looking to make a little bit of a jump back up towards his teammate of Jojo. So we'll have to see. Maybe a little wide there out of Spoon, but looking to carry plenty of speed and looking to keep tight to the left, just cut off as much distance as possible. And over that second timing marker, down a little bit more than a 10th and a half. So only 3 corners really to go. So can the Alpine of Jamie join his teammate towards the top of the order? He's actually going to dive into the pit lane here. So a bit of a surprise there. He seemed to be up, but I don't know if that was just a kind of recon push lap or what that was. But Jamie going to dive into the pit lane there with just about 4 minutes left to go.
Yeah, Axolotic as well is also 2 tenths up on his current lap time. So this one, oh,
Ooh,
that was a
Biggest.
nasty slide, then.
Yeah, pretty big slide there. I think lucky to get an invalidated lap there based on what we could see, but he's half a second up now through the first two sectors, so whether that was just a kind of visual thing for us, we can't be fully sure, but he seems to be pretty comfortable, and through the final couple of corners, how high can the Mercedes jump? He'll jump up into P3 for the moment, so he'll jump ahead of both Nander and Jay's Williams, and so that's a good showing for him for the moment, and then on his LSR debut.
If he can do that whilst also doing that, like, loss, that's an insane lap time to me.
Yeah.
Tommy thinks he can't go any quicker. I think
I'd assume
because
so.
He's retired.
I assume so. Ricky, meanwhile, I believe is the furthest ahead on the lap in that AlphaTauri. Of course, coming through that spot where we saw Axel have that pretty big slide. A little bit tidier for Ricky. Of course, coming down onto the back straight and coming across that marker. He's half a second up, but that's only really good enough for 14th at the moment. So we'll have to see how can he keep it nice and clean through these final couple of corners. Of course, you've got to really attack the curves here if you want to get that best line. Of course, keep it nice and tight out of that final corner. And that lap time is good enough for 14th. So 1.7 seconds back of the pole time for right now. But still a decent enough showing. Meanwhile, Betham on his, what will probably be one and only lap of qualifying. Of course, definitely keep an eye on that number 19 as he comes down this back straight now. Not going to have a delta here. We'll have to see just how fast he can go. Well, 111.7 through those first couple of sectors as there are a whole bunch of cars coming out to start their final laps of qualifying. So let's see what can Betham do as he comes to the line. Where will the Mercedes go? That's only good enough for 14th, so a little bit uncharacteristic there from Betham. Potentially could he be now looking to take a recharge lap and go again? We'll have to keep an eye on him, see if those tires potentially just weren't in the right window for him just yet.
I do wonder if he's made a little bit of a mistake there, because that's not normally his lap times, but maybe he's got enough fuel to do another lap, but I don't think so with 1 minute. But it will be very, very close. And confirmation from Tommy, he crashed in Sector 1.
Gotcha. Viperize, meanwhile, was up early in his lap. I believe it was a 10th or 2. Of course, he currently sits 13th, but still plenty of spots to gain. As half a second gets him up to P7. He's up over 6/10 coming through 190R. So let's see how high this Ferrari can jump. So potentially a little bit of track evolution coming into the play in the closing stages. So let's see, Viperize now out of the final corner into the line. He currently sits P13. That lap time good enough for P7, so a good showing. Nander, meanwhile, isn't going to get back out. Is only about 20 seconds left to go in the session. I believe the Haas of Joner goes P10. That's in, let's see, I believe a couple of cars behind him are just starting laps. We'll try to jump around, see if anybody is on a lap. Pingy, meanwhile, is stopped. I believe he's just letting a couple of cars through because he made a bit of a mistake on his push lap, so he'll not improve from 16th. Let's see, Kendricks, meanwhile, up half a second. But of course, didn't have a great first time through those first two sectors. So Kendricks to the line, he'll only start 18th. So potentially a Red Bull back row, which of course we're not used to seeing in real life, but could be interesting. Speedy with a big mistake there through Spoon, so I wouldn't be surprised to see if that mistake costs him. Swapping through to see if anybody is up. Waits is up a little bit early on, as is Joner, but not significantly. Jamie, meanwhile, up about a quarter of a second out of the final corner. The Alpine goes 6th fastest. JM, meanwhile, coming down. He's currently sits 5th. Jojo has failed to improve. Derul runs a little wide there. He's not going to improve either. Derul ran a little bit wide in Spoon corner. JM, meanwhile, has backed off completely, so he's made a mistake somewhere. So I don't believe we'll see any improvement as Dodoligo, as we have 3 cars, I believe, run wide there at Spoon. So I believe this should be your starting order, unless Jonah can make a jump up the order. He'll jump up only 1 spot into 10th. Betha, meanwhile, He's up 2/10, which isn't significant, as he does have a big twitch there through the final chicane. Just about caught it. He's going to pull into the pits, as that time not going to be improvement. So I think this will be your starting grid for the race.
Yeah.
So Durul takes pole position from Jojo. Axelonic on his in his Group 1 and I believe LSR debut is going to start third. So a great showing there from the Mercedes. The Williams in 4th and 5th. Jamie will be 6th. Tommy XXC waits in 8th. Viperize in 9th. And Jonah in 10th will round out that front 10, but definitely keep an eye on Beathon back there. Keep an eye on guys like Gaming James, and even Kendricks, who generally has a habit of starting towards the back and making sniff moves throughout the race to throw some chaos into the mix.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting race, and well, we've got some people out of positions and some who are up there that I didn't even expect them to be there. But anyway, it should be an exciting race and should be very, very entertaining.
Yeah, should be very, very good. And of course, definitely a chance for changeable conditions. I don't know if we've gotten a weather report just yet from any of the drivers, but should still be interesting. Decent chance to rain here in Suzuka, though I feel like we may have if there was.
I know
we'll
said no rain, so taking his word at the moment, and there is not going to be any rain. But if you are here, can you send a weather update, please?
Yeah, so we'll have to keep a bit of an eye on that. As of course, pretty bright and shiny here, so we'll have to see on that front. But yeah, we'll have to see. We've just got a couple of seconds for strategy to come in. But yeah, I think a couple of drivers just kind of looking to potentially do better in the race. I think we do have to keep our eye open at turn 1. Of course, formation lap is going to be on, so we'll have a chance to look at tire compounds and take a look at some of those. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on that. Of course, definitely a decent chance to see some contact, some potential shuffling at turn 1. Though it's, kind of very challenging. We'll have to wait and see, because strategy calls are going to be important. Fuel is actually going to be surprisingly important here at Suzuka, as you've probably got to be somewhere in the range of 1.3 laps up on fuel if you want to push for a significant amount of time. Of course, I got a bit of a countdown going right now, though I don't quite see the countdown timer. We'll have to wait and see.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. So, let's see. We'll have to take a look. And formation lap is underway. So we'll have to take a look at some of the tire choices. And it's a really mixed up order here for Suzuka. So we're seeing all tire choices in the top 6. So very mixed up. Of course, the top 4 all opting for the soft compound tires early on in the race. Ooh, apologies for that. So potentially could be looking a soft to hard or soft to medium route even. That does work on some tracks in this game. And potentially it's a tough enough circuit where that tire wear isn't going to prove enough of an issue just because it's going to be really difficult to find a way past. JM, meanwhile, is going to be the leader of those on the medium tires. As guys like Waits, Viperize, Dodoligo. And then much fewer drivers opting for the hards. So you got Jamie, Betham, and Pingy all opting for the hards. It seems the Kendrick Special isn't so special today, with many more drivers opting for those softs.
It's going to be quite interesting. You got Jamie in 6th position on the hard compound tires. Probably, for me, I probably wouldn't do it because of how high he is, but it'll be interesting to see how those hard tires can get off the line, because they are always the best tire to get away off the grid. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there, as Speedy is going very, very slowly.
Very much taking his time. hopefully he picks it up, because don't want to be sitting on the grid for quite too long. But we'll have to keep an eye on him, potentially just dragging those brakes, trying to keep as much heat as possible. Of course, I got the predicted race strategies from AWS, and for the soft runners, it is showing the soft to hard and soft to medium as potential strategies. So, lap 11 to 13 for the mediums, I believe it was lap 13 showing as I think it was 11 to 13 for the mediums, and then a little bit sooner for those hard comp tires. Of course, as we're pulling up to the grid, so we'll have to see, do any of the drivers overshoot that grid box? That Mercedes kind of behind, a little bit attacking. Jojo in P2 is going to get disqualified, so he's going to be dropped back a little bit. That Mercedes angled a little bit to the inside. The Williams as well, a little bit behind him.
I think Ricky had a spin, or he was just spinning his car naturally, as you do as well. Yeah,
here comes Speedy slowly to the back. As that AlphaTauri is that is a rather odd starting position. I don't know if he intended to do that, but that is a very, let's go with, interesting parking choice. We'll have to wait and see. 3, 4, 5 red lights. At least 5 red lights initially, and now we're underway here in Suzuka. It seems to be a decent start from Derul, decent from Jojo, as Derul immediately goes defensive to the inside. The Aston Martin going to look to retain the lead, and seemingly all clean through turn 1. A couple of drivers shuffling positions. Thomas losing a bunch of positions, as a whole bunch of shuffling. That McLaren running a little bit wide. Leo's Tommy XXC almost in the grass, but it's a clean getaway from the pole sitter of Derul. The top 6 all staying the same as Ricky out of the race. That was a big wreck. That's a 3-car pileup, and that's both Red Bulls and Ricky, all with contact at the S's. And we're gonna get a quick safety car there, as big contact early on in the race, and already our first retirement.
I don't think Kendricks has got any damage. I think he's got away with it, but Speedy losing his front wing and a time penalty for something. I don't know what that's for. It's a 5-second time
he got
penalty,
a fight for that collision. So of course that will be served in the pit lane. But yeah, Speedy getting a 5-second time penalty for that collision. So whether that was Ricky spinning in front of him and that collision just happened, or whether that was due to something else, of course we'll have to wait and see. Now, of course, Ricky out of this race. Don't know if you got a shot of that stricken AlphaTauri, but we're already gonna get an early safety car, and that's kind of some of the challenge of lap 1, specifically through those S's. Can be really easy to have a crash, and so we'll get a bit of a rolling restart. I wouldn't expect anybody to dive in the pit lane here outside of Speedy Gunner, but we could mean we see an extension of some of these soft tire stints in the early section of this race. Kendricks is actually going to dive in the pit lane for a fresh set of tires, so we're going to see a Red Bull double stack.
So he's gone onto a hard compound tire, so he's going to go long on this, but
yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. Could this be an attempt to take those hard tires the distance in the absence of another safety car? Or it could be, hey, let's put these soft tires in the pocket for a little bit later on in the race, since they might only be used for a lap, and save them for potentially needing them late on in this race.
A possible ending with a safety car, which could help if he does not have another set of softs. As you say, those will only have 1 lap, so it won't be too bad to have them on the car. Speedy's kept with the softs though, so split strategy.
Yeah, he's gone from mediums to softs, so potentially looking to now go soft to hard. Of course, was able to serve that 5-second time penalty in the pit lane, as the game does allow that
And now I see
automatically.
the possible race strategies, only for a little second, but
Yeah, so we'll have to see. But it should be rather interesting. And that soft to medium, I think, just got a little bit more attractive for a whole bunch of the drivers, specifically these front four. So we'll have to wait and see on that front.
could well be very interesting. I mean, a lot of people are on pace, and I think as soon as the soft starts going down, we might see the mediums fight with some of the soft runners. So hopefully, it gets interesting.
Yeah, at least based on purely the start of that race. Didn't really have anybody gain a large amount. You got weights. You got, of course, the top six all kind of holding steady. You got weights who got a position. You got Gaming James, who actually got 4 off the start, so a great start from him. And a couple of others who got a spot here and there. Big loser there at the start, though, was Viperized, so just not a good getaway. He did drop 7 positions off the start there. And of course now down in P16, so he's going to be, looking to recover. Of course, those mediums potentially just not being in the right window, potentially just not quite getting them to the temperature he wanted. Of course, should hopefully be getting back underway this lap now that everybody is behind the safety car and shouldn't have any funny business since everybody is in this nice, neat train. We'll have to wait and see. Speedy and Kendrick's actually swapping places there briefly. I think Kendrick's had an off. Whether that was accidental or on purpose, but the Red Bulls have actually swapped positions. Doesn't seem that they've been penalized anyhow. But that should work out really nicely for them, as Pingy actually runs really wide there at the hair. He's going to lose position too. So a couple of drivers even struggling here with their safety car to find the right way to keep it within track limits.
As Kendrick's and Speedy again swapping positions. I didn't see Kendrick getting past, but Speedy again getting past both. But very confusing back of the grid.
Are we going to be... I think Nope, safety car is in this lap. So so a bit of a late pull of the trigger there, and so the pack is going to get really tied up, and this could be a really ugly getaway as JoJo looking to pull Max Verstappen move. Of course, not really allowed. Duel, a big slide there on the attempted getaway, but he does seem to be kind of clear as we do get to green flag conditions here at Suzuka, and it seems to be fairly under control into turn 1. Duel still retains the lead. Nobody with a great jump on each other. As a bit of a twitch there, though, and that is allowed JoJo to take a sniff around the outside. But of course, he's going to have to hold station for the moment. As we make our way through the action, a couple of drivers swapping spaces. I believe that's Gordo dropping a couple of spots. He and Thomas D, I think, are fighting side by side. Of course, as we make our way into Sector 2 and the Degners. Everybody really holding station. We got the Mercedes of Axolotic actually looking... Oh, and that's a big spin from Axolotic. I believe that was contact with with JoJo, and that's another safety car, which is rather confusing.
Safety car for that?
A safety car for that is rather confusing. I don't know why it would go that high up. I'm not sure if he was trying to go around the outside of JoJo, or if that was Mander he was battling. But there was contact. That was JoJo. So there was contact there between JoJo and Axolotic. Not sure quite what happened there. I'm not sure if that was netcode related, or if that was potentially the cars just getting a little too close and banging wheels. But contact sent Axolotic spinning. as we got a whole bunch of cars driving into pit lane early here. Of course, Axolotl with a load of damage. And almost went into the wall. JM staying out, Genie staying out, Waits elects to stay out, as does both McLarens. Beetham are up into 6, but of course is on those hard compound tires, so it's going to be going later on in the race. Thomas will stay out, Viperize and Pingy stays out, and it seems to be really only the majority of those, so it's Derul, Jojo, Nander, Joner, Axolotl, and Bono opting to pit under that safety car.
I wasn't expecting a pit stop this early. I mean, those softs probably could have gone a little bit longer than maybe the 13th lap because of these now 2 safety cars. But that's very interesting why we've even got that safety car. But anyway, some people are probably happy about it, saving their tyres, but others opted to pit.
Yeah, of course, we'll have to wait and see on that front. Of course, got a little bit more downtime. Of course, it's starting to look like the early portion of COTA Group 2 last week, except you're subbing out the virtual safety cars for full safety cars for the most part. Of course, Suzuka is definitely a circuit where, if you've got a bunch of tight battles going on, you're probably more likely to see a safety car just from how close you are to grass, gravel traps, and walls. And of course, got plenty of drivers looking to be aggressive here. And just a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of a miscalculation, and somebody goes into the wall, that's quickly a safety car incident.
I want to guess one more lap behind the safety car.
I'd imagine it's one.
Is now the leader.
Of course, it means we will get to see a new dynamic behind the safety car. Of course, we saw Derul and Jojo on the last safety car restart. So I could see JM and Jamie on this next one. Which wouldn't be surprised to see somebody like Waits or either of the McLarens behind look to make moves. Definitely keep eyes on Beetham as well, who's had probably a good race early. Of course, all the way up to 6. He started a little bit further towards the back. But of course, that Mercedes is always going to be a little bit dangerous, especially as he falls into a rhythm.
Yeah, that man can get very fast, very quickly, and just waiting. I think he's waiting for that perfect time to get into that rhythm with this track. Because this track is going to be quite hard to get into that lap by lap rhythm with potentially safety cars, and your rhythm will just slowly disappear.
And certainly there could be a couple of drivers that maybe look to take this to the end. I mean, really the only drivers that have any chance of that right now would be Kendricks, Jojo, and Bono. And those would be the drivers that would have any chance, realistically, of making it to the end on their hard compound tires. Of course, that probably will put them well within puncture range and at a major disadvantage to drivers who might look to pit. But potential strategies throughout the rest of this race that we could see happen and could pay off for them.
It will be very interesting to see it work for those drivers. Do we? Yes, we do.
We do, and we get it much earlier. It should be much more comfortable. So JM is going to have control of the field in that Williams. So it's going to be a little bit less chaotic here. As we pull up to the chicane, we saw Derul make that jump right out of the chicane. Jam, they're going to wait a little bit later. He's going to go now, though, and he's going to take off. Got a fairly comfortable jump on Jamie, but of course not too much, as Jamie's going to be looking to go on the attack. 10th and a half back. Is he going to take a sniff to the inside in turn 1? He is. The Alpine going to take a look to the inside. That Williams runs wide, and it's going to be Jamie taking the lead Into turn one, JM waits with contact. That's going to let Gaming James move up into P3 and lead to Waits losing a position. It's going to be Jamie leading the way here on lap number 7.
Yeah, that Williams of James just went a bit too wide, and I think John Wick just got the worst of it, but John Wick losing positions, James losing that position, and Jamie looking to be a good contender right now.
The Alfa Romeos of Dodolio and Pingy battling, as is Duwu and Kendricks, both swapping positions up down into that hairpin. But up in front, Jamie, I think, looking to maybe try and make a bit of a getaway. But JM seeming to run on pretty low downforce as that got closed up pretty quickly as we made the run into Spoon. We'll have to see, can JM make a move? Of course, 3 cars very tight together as JoJo, I think with a big mistake there through Spoon, he's dropped all the way to the back of the order as JM, him and James battling side by side. McLaren going to be moving up into P2, so Jamie, John Wick, and JM, so got 4 James in the top order. The Thom, meanwhile, up into P5, he managed to pick off Tommy XXC as we got a bunch of fastest laps rolling in. But Jamie's going to be the first one to lead a full race lap as JoJo going to retire in the pit lane. So something wrong for that Alpine requiring him to box. And so he's out of the race. I'm not sure what quite happened there. But of course that's going to be our second retirement of the day.
Yeah, Tommy just had a...
Yeah.
John Wick goes very wide,
and
there's a
he's
spin.
in front of the field. That's 3 cars involved.
That is a lot more than 3 cars.
Gets a 5-second penalty as well. As that's going to create loads of carnage as there's so many cars back behind there, and there was definitely some debris thrown around. I think there was Waits B-Thom involved for sure. I think Nander may have involved, and that vaporized with a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags.
Okay, I don't understand some of those penalties. I mean, there was
carnage there.
This is insane. Like, how many cars?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I know there were 3 at the initial contact, as I'm pretty sure was John Wick getting a little bit loose at the Degners, as Nander able to pick off Tommy XXC. As only now DRS gets enabled, Tommy XXC going to ping Duel, Speedy, Axolotic, B-Thom, I think, all involved. So I think it ended up being a 6-car incident. And that's going to really change the dynamic of this race, as it means Jamie and James now are going to kind of have the race to themselves for right now, as Viperize is going to head up the second pack we're third all the way down to 9th are all within DRS range of each other, but it's currently the Ferrari in P3.
Yeah, I do wonder what just happened to, I think it was John Wick who first spun it, and then just Tommy had nowhere to go and he was just there. So that's very unfortunate for 6 drivers, as B-Tom is now down in 16th after being 5th.
I think that's potentially just some of the challenge of the Degners. At least that's why I assume it would be there. It seemed that just through Degner 2, at least from my perspective, it looked like through Degner 1, he got a little bit loose, tried to be a little bit more offensive through Degner 2, as Dodoligo going to go around the outside of Viperize in the run-up into 130R, and that Alfa Romeo going to take the position rather comfortably. And is going to hold it into the chicane. But it did seem that John Wick, a little bit loose through Degner 1, managed to catch it, but the car wasn't fully settled for Degner 2, as we do have a lead change. Gaming James down the inside of Jamie into turn 1. And so the McLaren going to be taking the lead here as we start lap number 10. So we got a new leader here, but of course how long those soft tires can last is going to be the question.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because Game James is on the softs and Jamie is on the hard compound tires. So he will be going for a longer stint, and some people will not have to pit again.
Liga, meanwhile, starting to make a little bit of a getaway. Another car wide at the Degners. I believe that was the Haas.
Kendricks.
Was that Kendricks? Okay, I didn't fully see it.
I
but yeah,
think.
Kendricks a little bit wide there. So of course that Red Bull going to be looking to try to make those hards last as much as he can. Of course, tire wear a little bit more challenging in this year's game. So a bit more interesting to manage. Of course, back up at the front, that gap's still about 4/10, so Jamie still very much within range to be able to re-overtake here to start lap number 11, quarter of a second. So the Alpine does still stay behind. They're getting rather close and running pretty deep into the chicane. Could that compromise his attack back into turn 1? I think it will, as he's going to be almost a second and a half down as they flip it to the DRS activation point. Of course, that gap going to close throughout the lap, but James is a big advantage there now. It's potentially able to start the full way. Nander, meanwhile, able to overtake Thomas with the aid of DRS in the turn 1, so that's the Williams duo back up into 5th and 6th. Nander really using those fresh mediums to his advantage. Can now potentially go after his teammate of Jay, as well as Viperize and Dodaligo for P3 on track.
Does Jay let his teammate go, or do they stay as John Wick comes into the pit and Nanda is ahead, as I was just saying, and Nanda's going to attack Viperize?
And that's waits into the pits twice. I think he had an incident early on, or he just didn't get a wind change. But that's going to lose him loads of time. He's going to be well behind the field now. So definitely disappointing for the Aston Martin driver. Of course, the teammate of Derul currently in 11th. I believe caught up in that large incident, but of course is potentially going to be looking for something to happen. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, still a two-horse race up at the front. Meanwhile, the battle for P3, there is both Williams making their way past the Ferrari of Viperize. Nander, meanwhile, right up on the back of Dodaligo, so we'll have a chance to make the move for P3 as we make our way into turn 1. Here they come down the pit straight. Of course, DRS is going to be wide open for the Williams. He's going to be very inside, and he's going to be a length ahead and is going to be ahead. Viperize, meanwhile, in position to Jonah, but Nander moves up into P3 of the race. So the Williams do swap positions, and Nander with those fresh mediums looking to continue to make moves and can now go chasing after the leaders.
Yeah, Nanda is one of the people who have pitted, but I do wonder if those mediums can go the distance, because I think he would have pitted at like what, lap, probably lap 1 or lap 5.
Yeah,
so it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I believe he pitted during that second safety car period. Just a little bit of a lockup, it seemed, from the Williams, but seemingly back underway. And already with that gap behind, up over a second, so that Williams trying to look to go on the charge. As that Alfa Romeo, what happened there? I didn't know if that was a bug or what, but he's lost his front wing. And Dodaligo with a big incident there. So didn't quite catch what happened. Just saw the barriers moving. And that's a big incident there for the Alfa Romeo driver.
Yeah, I just caught him going into it. I am very surprised as James pits now for the first time.
From the lead. And so, of course, this is right on schedule for the McLaren. Is it going to be the hards or the mediums? It's going to be the medium tires going onto the McLaren. So we're going to be seeing at least one soft to medium one stop here today. Apologies. So getting over the last of a cold, so apologize to me.
Kendricks has added off and lost his front wing, and Dodaligo has retired.
Dodaligo has retired. So he thinks his race is done, so he'll retire in the pit lane. So that brings us down to just, 16 drivers now left in the race. Of course, Jamie currently with a 3-second lead over Nander, who's on a real charge now. looking to make up all that time. This is a great day so far for the Williams outfit.
This is going to be an amazing race for those two drivers. Here at Japan, as John Wick sets the fastest lap time, Kendrick's not having the greatest races because he's going to have to pit again for a new front wing after a collision in turn 1 with the barrier, I believe.
Yeah, he doesn't have that front right end plate on his car. So that Red Bull, and I think really struggling with it there through Spoon running wide. So of course currently sets 9th. Of course if he pits, he's going to be losing a good chunk of time. Meanwhile, up at the front, Nander continuing to gain a lot of time. So I think those mediums and hards right in the right spot. As Johnner actually meanwhile moves up into P3. Viperized meanwhile dives into the pit, as does Thomas. So Viperized of course going to be serving that 5-second time penalty. We'd be surprised though if that goes to Steward's review for potential removal. We'll have to wait and see on that front. Thomas going for soft. Viperized going for hards. Of course, that'll lead to a shuffle of a couple of positions. It could bring a couple of drivers back into this race, like Durul.
So Nanda currently 1.5 seconds off the lead after he passed everybody else, but Jamie will have to pit again. But I do believe Nanda as well, so pretty much almost everyone will need to pit again at some stage unless he can get those mediums to go the very long distance.
I think it'd be it'd definitely be a struggle to take that set of mediums to 2 laps. Who doesn't seem to matter, at least for the moment, for the lead. Let's see, does Jamie elect to dive into the box here on lap 14? No, he'll stay out, so Nander will get a chance to overtake on track. DRS going to be wide open in the back of the Williams. He's going to be close enough into turn 1. 4/10, 3/10, not quite going to be close enough this time around, as JM will dive into pit lane on those medium tires, taking them 14 laps. And going for a set of hards, surprisingly.
Where does that put James? Because I think he was 5 seconds off his teammate, and that's put him in 7th place. So if Nando's and Jamie pit now, they'll be around 6th and 5th, I believe.
I'd assume that'd be where about they'd slide in. Definitely be interesting where they slot in compared to Durul, as he's definitely a driver to keep an eye on. A lot of pace, of course. Had a poor strategy decision last week, left him out of the point, but still could be in the running. And of course, Nander still pulling up back closer to the back of Jamie. Is he going to be looking to potentially make a move into 190R? And Williams only a 10th back. Going to be holding back for the moment, though, as they break for the chicane. Where is the Alpine going to elect to stay out? No, he's going to dive into the pit lane, so I'll see just how much the time gain is for Jamie, as Nander is going to take the lead here on lap number 16.
Yeah, but now this is the point where we see where do they come out. And looking at the Aston Martin, he's only coming around the final corner now, and Jamie is just about to come out with pits.
Yeah,
he's going to be behind.
He can go full speed, though. Is he going to be ahead of the second Williams of JM? He will be, and rather comfortably, but it might take a second to get those mediums up the sky, but he's got a little bit of a way to go. So, gaining James, I think, rather comfortably right now. So we're going to lose, so he's going to be, so no, gaining James, I think, right about 7 seconds with that undercut. So rather effective for the moment. We'll see if it stays that way.
Well, Gaming James, no, he won't need to pit again. So I think Gaming James right now is contender for first place, other than Bono, who has gone on those hard tyres for 11 laps. And I think the hards could almost go that 20 lap distance.
There's certainly a chance there. Of course, taking a look at the position change graphic once again. Of course, the biggest winner so far is Bono. Of course, currently sitting in third place. Jono and James, meanwhile, Jono, James, and Pinky all up 8 spots. Speedy Gunner, meanwhile, has gained 7 in some of the carnage. Biggest loser so far, Axolotic, got either unlucky or caught up in that incident with JoJo. I believe that was on lap number 4. So of course he's currently down in 14th. Of course, got caught up and had to double stack with his teammate of Bethom. But good, about 11 laps to go now. And still plenty of racing left to go. As Pingy will once again dive into the pit lane in that Aston Martin. I'd assume it's opting for a set of mediums, which he will be slapping on. And off he goes. Of course, Nander with a comfortable gap up there at the front. Of course, just over 5 seconds now. But how much are those medium tires wearing out? The gap to Gaming James is sitting at about 14 and a half seconds as of right now. So if he pits, wouldn't be surprised if he comes out behind Jamie and potentially even GAM. Not quite, just because I assume it's about a 21, 22 second loss of time in the pit lane. So we'll have to see just how long the Williams attempt to stay out. He's still got that comfortable gap, though, back to Joe. He's keeping him honest.
He might go to the soft, but he might end behind his teammate, because his teammate is 23 seconds.
We'll have a good look here from Joner and Bono, though, as they look to dive into the pit lane. Bono, though, misjudges that, and will get a time penalty as he comes into the pit lane. Joner opting for the soft, so he's going to get nice and aggressive here in the closing stages. So he was about 4.7 seconds back as he entered the pit lane. Let's see what his time is when he comes out, so we can have a look, potentially, at how much time Nander could potentially lose. He's going to come out at about 26.9 seconds back, so you're going to lose about 22 seconds in the pit lane. So that would put Nander behind Drew for the moment.
Behind his teammate.
Of course, if he's...
Almost.
Of course,
his
if you
teammate's
slap on those
22.5.
Right. Of course, you slap on those soft compound tires, and that can give you a lot of pace late on in the Grand Prix. So we'll have to keep an eye on what he looks to do.
It's going to be very interesting because Tommy is also 25 seconds, and does Nando just say come in now and just make sure he isn't falling back anymore, and he does come into the pit? So
He does look to do that. Of course, meanwhile, we got a little bit of a battle for third brewing as Gruel has managed to close the gap to Jamie rather considerably, so that gap is now under a second. As Nander will dive into the pit lane, and those are soft compound tires for the Williams, which should come out in P5 or
Joe's
P6.
gone off.
As he has gone off.
Cut you there. He did. I don't know what happened to him there, but he just almost went into the barriers. But Nando,
a little bit power happy out of that final corner. So yeah, that's going to be great news for Nander, as he's going to come out in third and very comfortably.
Only 3 seconds behind Jamie, but on the faster compound tyres. Unless Jamie and James start fighting it out, Nando could well just slowly ease up onto that gap.
Of course, there is still plenty of racing left to go, but I think Nander is going to be by far away the favorite, at least as of right now. Of course, still plenty of things could happen in this race, but I think it'd be hard to not put a vote of confidence in on Nander at the moment. Of course, penalties not too big of an issue as of right now. Got Barlow with a 5-second, and then Pingy and JM with 3 seconds. As Tommy XXC, meanwhile, able to overtake Durul through Spoon, as Durul actually out of ERS with that red light in the back flashing. We've been looking to maybe make him a look to the inside. No, but potentially he's going to have a shot with DRS here down the pit straight. So will he be able to re-overtake? No, he's actually going to dive into the pit lane. So potentially damage on the Aston Martin or just really worn tires there. Just unsure on that. But he is going to box for a fresh set of medium tires.
That's quite interesting. I don't think he went on those tyres for very long, so quite an interesting stop from the Aston Martin driver.
Yeah, he only put about 11 laps on those tires, and so he has gone to the mediums that he started the race on, if I'm not mistaken, because he ran those, because those mediums were already 4 laps old when he put them on. Meanwhile, Jamie has closed the gap to James rather effectively. That gap to Nander behind hasn't really grown or shrunk by all that much.
It's now down to 1.9 from 3 seconds. So.
Oh, it has. So okay. So I was slightly mistaken in that. And Jamie, meanwhile, also managing to reel the gap into James. So we're gonna have a 3-way battle for the lead here, more than likely. And of course, gonna be 7 laps left to go as we cross the line. So definitely going to be heating up as Jamie and Nander both pull that gap closer and closer to gaining James. As Nander also with the fastest lap of the race, scoring 21.9.1.
That gap now 1.1, so Nander is really catching up to these two cars. But I wonder, does he just hang back whilst, if and when these two do fight it out? Does he just sit back and let his EOS and fuel just make sure it's okay, and then he'll just go for that push?
Yeah, I don't know if fuel is a concern for anybody at the moment. I think everybody is rather comfortable on fuel. Trying to take a look at, getting probably closer to my TV than I should to take a look at that fuel monitor. But I think all 3 of the leaders rather comfortable on fuel, especially after those 2 safety cars.
That gap now for all 3 of them under 1 second. Every single one of them can taste that win on the tip of their tongue, and I do wonder who is going to be able to edge out and win the Japanese Grand Prix.
Yeah, potentially going to get spicy here, but Nander out of ERS at the moment, so that red light flashing at the back of his Williams, but he's showing a lot of pace regardless, as DRS going to be available for both the Alpine and the Williams. So what are we going to see here into turn 1? Tommy XXC going to get very defensive. Here comes Jamie around the outside. They're going to be side by side through turn 1, and it's going to be James taking the lead. Contact there, I think, between Jamie and Nander. Yeah, and Nander James going to hold P1 rather, and then I think contact between Jamie and Nander giving that place back, and now that battle can hopefully continue on in earnest.
Yeah, I think Nander's just had a little bit of a tap with him, but fair play to the Williams driver for giving that place back, as I think he knew that was just about his fault.
Yeah, and I think it seemed to be, no harm done. It was just, the cars were battling cars ahead battling side by side, and had to make a quick reaction. But still, very fair play, and good to see that sportsmanship from the Williams driver. But of course, will we see an overtake now here into 190R? Of course, got a really long run. He doesn't have a lot of ERS, but he does have slipstream. But Jamie going defensive and breaking that toe. He's going to come back to the racing line, though. But he's not going to have DRS this time round. So will the Williams get him this time round? So wait and see as they pull onto the pit straight, and Nander going to immediately go to the inside. He's going to have that DRS advantage. He is going to take P2, and now the both of them can go chasing after Damon James as we just hit 5 laps left to go in the Japanese Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think Jamie just did, as he didn't have that DRS, it was just maybe a bit too easy for the Williams driver on those soft tyres. But now it's the fight for first position for Nanders. But if Jamie can hold on, maybe a penalty could come someone's way for track limits, or he could still probably get the win.
Yeah, and certainly Jamie still has a decent bit of pace, and we saw how defensive James was getting, but Nander's so much pace, even though he was relatively low on the ERS. I think he's managed to recover enough that car seemingly is back up to full speed. Of course, the red light at the back not blinking anymore. Still a second separating the top 3, but only 2/10 in it for the lead of this race. We're going to make the run down into 190R once again. Is Nander's still going to hold off until after the chicane, so he's going to look to keep that DRS advantage. And a little bit wide there for Gaming James. Could that compromise the line? No, it won't, but it'll make this a very interesting fight for the lead, as both cars behind once again going to have DRS. It's a quarter of a second in it between 3 cars. James going to get defensive again. Here comes Nander around the outside. Can he stick it? No, he's going to go wide and off track, and he's going to lose the position to Jamie, but they're still going to be side by side and very tight. Nander going to hold P2, and James once again defends into turn 1 and retains that lead.
Yeah, very nice battle for the top 3. Nobody changes position somehow, but very, very intense. Oh, there's that penalty. Just 1 lap later as James gets that penalty. So right now, Nanders is on provisional pole position.
Provisional top step of the podium is probably just as accurate. Yeah, we'll have to see. I just assume that's still not the end of the race. Still plenty of time left to go. Taking a quick scan, I don't think Nander has any track limits warnings penalties yet. And then taking a look for Jamie, I don't think it's the same. So I believe the 2 back behind, no track limits warnings yet. But we'll have to see how this race continues. As Jamie, I think, took a look there at Nander. And of course, they're both going to have DRS once again. Will Jamie go defensive again? No, Nander immediately going to get to the inside. He's going to take that lead for the moment, and he's going to hold it into turn 1. And Nander retakes the lead as we start lap number 25. 3 laps to go, and Nander once again has the lead in the Williams.
Yeah, very nice move from the Williams driver to get pole position. But now the fight turns to Jamie, but will he choose to go a little bit less aggressive? Because he knows he's got that 3-second time penalty. So maybe Jamie will just let that mistake happen, or he can just either stay behind him on track and not fight too much.
I think he's not going to get too risky and too ambitious, but I certainly would be surprised to not see a move here with 3 laps to go. I guess a little bit further down the order, of course, JM and Joan are going to be having a little bit of a penalty battle, though JM currently with that 1/10 advantage after 3 seconds of time penalties. Tommy XXC up into 6th. That's a Red Bull wide of Kendricks. Kendricks out of the race. Is that going to be anything, though? Speedy Gunner off the track, too. That was a big twitch there from Speedy, it looked like. He's going to keep that car on track, though. I think that was just him getting a little bit loose there on the power. Both Red Bulls seemingly almost going off in a very similar way. Of course, starting at the start of 2 laps to go, so no safety car. And Jamie as well is going to take 2nd place on circuit. So still going to try and keep Nander as much under pressure as he can. Of course, that gap up to 1.3 seconds, so Nander with a chance to maybe make a getaway and try and comfortably win this race.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with those two Red Bulls, but Jamie now ahead of James through turn 1. So that's P3 for James now with that 3-second time penalty, but the fight for P1 could still be on if those tyres have started to die down just a bit.
Yeah, I think certainly could be at a point where the softs and mediums probably about equal between Nander and Jamie. Of course, not a lot of time left, so we'll have to see just how much, can Jamie claw back that second half? I think it's not super likely, but still could be possible. Further down the order, the pack is still a little bit spread out. Duel could potentially have a chance to have a go at Viper Eyes with a gap at about the same point. Speedy Gunner with 3-second time penalty for track limits, though. As you do come around the final corner to start the final lap, and so that gap at about a second and a half. So I have to see, can those soft tires hold it together? Nander has had a great drive so far during this race. His yellow flag in Sector 1. Speedy Gunner goes off again at much the same spot. I think just struggling potentially with either tire heat or tire wear, especially when getting on the power on the exit of those S's. So not a great day for the Red Bulls. But, that gap now up to 1.7 seconds back to Jamie. So I think Nander very comfortable as Thomas D surprisingly dives into the pit lane. So potentially a puncture there for the Haas. And that's going to put Axelrodic at least up into the fold for the moment. Is it raining?
It's raining on the last lap. So this could be
raining.
What?
So this is very interesting. So keep an eye on some of these drivers. So can Nander hold on? It's not going to be a lot of rain, but is the moisture going to be enough? Because it's going to throw a little bit of a challenge into it. Speedy Gunner going to retire off the track surface, so that's not going to affect it. But just a couple of corners to go for Nander. Can he hold on to win the Japanese Grand Prix? We're 3 corners to go now. Just the chicane and the final corner. Can he hold on? 1.1 seconds is the gap. He's going to come out of the final corner, and it will be Nander winning the Japanese Grand Prix for Williams. Jamie finishes P2, Game and James in P3 for McLaren, and it's a great day for Williams as JM comes home to finish 4th. Joner comes home to finish 5th. Bono with a mistake there. He's going to lose a couple of positions, but it's going to be Tommy XXC in 6th. Viperize currently in 7th. Can he hold off Derul out of the final corner? As they come out of the corner, is Derul going to get him? No, not quite. That's going to be Viperize in 7th. Derul in 8th, who's going to, I think, lose that because of a time penalty? Why is Derul dropping down the order?
5-second time penalty. He has not served the penalty.
He's dropping. No, I think Derul dropped down the order further than 5 seconds. So we'll have to wait and see just how that affects it. But if that holds, Bono in 8th, Axelrodic in 9th, Beetham in 10th, followed by Pingy, Derul, Thomas D, who is going to finish in style, I guess, and then of course Waits coming out of the final corner will finish the race there in 14th. So it's a plenty interesting race there. Sorry, go for it.
I was going to say, I did not expect rain the last lap of the race. I did wonder why 2 people had spun off in those S's, and it was just... It was too odd to not be like a rain with 2 laps like that.
Yeah, so certainly could have been an issue with temperature as well. But it is going to be Nander on the top step of the podium here in Japan. So, of course, good to see a new winner. He had a great race last weekend in Austin. And, of course, great races all around. Plenty of chaos, plenty of carnage as well. But, of course, made it all the way through. And got to see another race with slightly changeable conditions. But at the end of the day, it is Nander taking max points. Of course, he started 4th. Came home to take the win, followed by Jamie and Game and James. JM finishes 4th, followed by Joner. Tommy Ecstasy, Viperize, and Bono. Axolotl in 9th, followed by Pingy, Thomas D, Wick, Beethom, and Durul, who surprisingly is P14. That might come down to Steward's review, though. No, because we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Have a penalty.
Yeah, so we'll have to kind of go to that for Steward's review, so we'll keep an eye on his result, followed by Speedy Gunner in 15th, Kendricks, Dodoligo, Jojo, and Ricky. So, James, I don't know about you, but that race was certainly very enjoyable. Of course, came down to the wire. Don't know if there's anything you want to say to close this out?
I do not, but that was a very, very interesting race, and I mean, all round, that was just perfect racing. I mean, so many people battling all over the place, so it was good. It was good to have a 19-car grid fighting it out for first place.
Yeah, of course, got to see plenty of both new blood and old bloods, at least for LSR, joining on the grid. Of course, we will have Group 2 and Group 3 tomorrow. Of course, if you're interested in joining LSR in the future, definitely let us know, either in the live chat whenever, whether that's on another stream, or even on the comments of this stream VOD. And we'd be happy to get you set up with a link. Definitely tune in tomorrow for Group 2 and Group 3 action. And congratulations, of course, to those front 3. And we will see you next time. Have a good one.